Come on. Number 2. Okay. Awesome. Almost 8 o'clock even. Wasn't exactly there. Today, same thing. It's gonna be scary videos, disturbing videos, more so. So this one is gonna be, I have like 7 or 8 pulled up, and I'm not gonna go through them all because I don't know how long I'm gonna be. Probably like 11 to like 3 hours, I'm assuming. Anyway, first video is gonna be most disturbing crimes at Taco Bell. And then the others are going to be Abyssal Detective, so it's going to be very long. I might get through 5 videos, 4 videos. We'll see. But yeah, I'm proud of myself because it's been a couple days in a row now, but it doesn't seem like my schedule is going to get as the way I want it anytime soon. But we'll see. Awesome. And now I fixed it so I can read the stuff instead of it being on the preview screen. Nobody's going to know what I'm talking about. All right. First video is Most Disturbing Crimes at Taco Bell by Yapmeister or Yapmaster. Have never seen a video from him.
Dinner after work, and
Oh.
these are the most disturbing crimes that happen at Taco Bell. And as the video goes on, the cases only get worse. Around 7:19 p.m.
Whoa.
the cases only get worse.
Drive-through murder in Stowe, the Megan Kellerman case.
Around 7:19 p.m. on August 14th, 2024, a 25-year-old woman named Megan Kellerman.
Oh, am I supposed to read that fast, or am I just slow? I don't know. That seemed really quick.
Of Stowe, Ohio, pulled into the Taco Bell drive-thru on Graham Road with her dog Penny to pick up her order. It was a typical Wednesday evening with people grabbing dinner after work and heading home. Megan was waiting in the drive-thru when a driver pulled in behind her, and suddenly he began honking at her.
Whoa.
She was the
Whoa. Huh? It just jumped to like almost the end of the video. Okay.
and suddenly he began honking at her, and moments later the driver even bumped the rear end of her car. Now the impact was minor, but it was more than enough to make her feel unsafe, so she acted accordingly. Frightened, she called her father to explain things, but little did she know that things were about to go from bad to worse. Megan, who just graduated with her MBA from Cleveland State University in May of 2024, was described as the kind of person who liked helping others.
Damn, dude, she didn't make it.
And constantly volunteered with Girls on the Run of Northeast Ohio, a youth program that mentors young girls through running and
just the way they're talking about it, you can tell she ain't make it. That's
building
super
confidence.
sad.
Now the man who drove in behind her was 53-year-old Jason Williams, and according to witnesses at the scene, Jason immediately became agitated while Megan was placing her order, and then suddenly rammed his vehicle into hers. Now Megan realized that she wasn't just dealing with an angry person, but someone who was actually dangerous, and what made her situation even worse was the fact that she just couldn't leave. You see, this Taco Bell drive-thru had a serious
all the drive-thrus are like that. You're trapped in there. You're dedicated once you get in, and they know that. I think that's part of the whole marketing thing. They want you to be stuck in the drive-thru, so you just have to get something. You might as well. You're gonna wait.
Problem. It was a one-lane road with a high curb on one side and a steep drop on the other, which means that there was literally no way for Megan to escape. She couldn't drive around the cars in front of her, and she couldn't back up because Jason...
Oh, she got an EV too. That's so... And he's got a big truck and just rammed her. That's insane.
...was right behind her.
It's always someone in a huge truck. I don't understand the behavior matching with the car. It's weird, but it always is the case.
And she couldn't pull off to the side because of the curb. Instead, she used to drive through intercom to urgently ask the Taco Bell employees to call 911, after which she calls her dad. Now during that call, Megan explained that some guy had hit her car and was acting crazy, and that she couldn't leave because he was boxed in. And while Nicholas Kielman, Megan's dad, was still...
I mean, I get letting Taco Bell know to call 911. I feel like you should handle that first. Just make sure the call's in. I mean, don't place an order at Taco Bell for 911. They're gonna get something wrong.
On the phone with his daughter, he suddenly heard her scream.
And the last thing you hear on the telephone is your daughter screaming, he is out of the car. and then I hear a pop. So I'm yelling through the phone,
Whoa.
Megan, talk to me.
Jason had gotten out of his vehicle, walked up to Megan's side window with a handgun, and fired 2 shots at point-blank range. But Jason wasn't done yet. After shooting Megan, he calmly walked back to his own car, got inside, and placed a gun under his chin, and then left this earth on his own. Everything happened
Oh, wow. That's horrible, dude. Just took her out for no reason.
so fast that the people at the Taco Bell parking lot didn't know what to do, but a handful of witnesses saw what happened and immediately dialed 911. Now, police reports indicate that dispatchers received at least 14 separate emergency calls about the shooting, and one of those calls went like this.
I'm at the Taco Bell on Graham Road and Hudson Drive, and a man just shot somebody and then shot himself in the head.
Now, paramedics were dispatched
Ooh, imagine that trip to Taco Bell. Oh my God. You may never want to eat there again after that. That's gross.
shortly afterwards, but
Oh, and there's probably people inside who just heard it and came out. 14 911 calls? That's crazy.
reaching the drive-thru was actually pretty difficult. The single lane left emergency vehicles trapped behind cars, and unable to drive up where the incident had occurred, paramedics were forced to park nearby and run the rest of the way, adding crucial seconds before they could actually reach the injured. And despite their efforts, it was already too late. According to the Summit County Medical Examiner, Megan was shot in the neck, causing
Oh no, that's horrible. Oh, that's so sad.
fatal injuries. And so both Megan and Jason were pronounced dead at the scene. Now, law enforcement officials immediately
Jason? She was with somebody else and he died too?
injuries. And so both Megan and Jason were pronounced dead at the scene. Now,
Oh, maybe it was like a weird thing where he was like some incel or something.
law enforcement officials immediately secured the area and called in the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation to assist. This is because homicides in Stowe are extremely rare. Now, the officers also safely removed Megan's dog, Penny, from the passenger seat, after which they proceeded to search Jason's car, where they found some alcohol and a loaded gun. As investigators dug into Jason's background, it became clear that this wasn't just a random guy having a bad day. He had a history.
That's the drive-through though. I
Into
mean,
Jason's background, it became clear that
I feel like I would be comfortable just driving over that curb. Like you're not really trapped. Just drive up on the grass.
this wasn't just a random
The cop is doing.
guy having a bad day. He had a history that should have kept him far from a gun, and multiple warning signs that somehow went ignored. Jason lived in Cuyahoga Falls and apparently had a long history of alcohol-related offenses and weapons charges. One of these incidents was in 1994 when Jason ran his car into the ditch on the East Pioneer Trail in Aurora, and when police tried to help, they discovered Jason drunk and carrying a .44 caliber revolver inside his car. He was charged with his first DUI, which led to his license being suspended, and when the case went to trial, a Portage County grand jury indicted Jason on a charge of carrying a concealed weapon. And a couple of months later, Jason was picked up again by Stowe police for driving, even though his license was still suspended from the DUI. However, the court records show that he cut a deal with the prosecutors, who eventually dropped the charge. And instead of facing serious consequences,
What I mean, what kind of deal could you cut in this situation? I understand giving names of people and things like that, but it's like an alcohol related issue. Like, how are you providing information that they'll give you a lighter sentence on?
show that he cut a deal with the prosecutors, who eventually dropped the charge. And instead of facing serious consequences,
And they totally drop it? It's not even reduced? That's so stupid.
Jason simply pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges. He paid the fines and then got on with his life. And fast forward to 2023, and things get even worse. On April 19th, Aurora police found Jason drunk after a wreck. This time, the 52-year-old was driving a motorcycle, a 2000 Indian to be exact, and official police records state that Jason first crashed a bike into a brick sign at the Aurora gas station, where he had coincidentally bought a bottle of vodka earlier in the evening. Jason was then taken to the hospital, but he refused to provide a blood sample to test his alcohol level. But the police said that they smelled alcohol on him at the scene and charged him with drunk driving and immediately suspended his license again. But in September of 2023,
Okay, so it doesn't even matter if they end up finding out and charging him. It doesn't seem like it matters. He's just gonna do it again.
Jason cut a deal and avoided
Why not take his license away? Suspended, I feel like, isn't enough.
a drunk driving conviction by pleading guilty to, again, a misdemeanor charge of losing physical control of his motorcycle. And by this point, his records showed a clear pattern. He gets drunk, drives his vehicle with a loaded weapon, gets caught, pleads guilty to something less severe, and repeats it all over again. But then, just a few months before the Taco Bell shooting, Jason was arrested again. And this time, what happened was serious enough that it should have kept him locked up, or at least permanently disarmed. Because on March 26, 2024, which was less than 5 months before he killed Megan, Jason was pulled over by Hudson police after he was caught driving the wrong way down a one-way street at night.
The car. What are you doing? Put your hands on the wheel for me. Put your hands on the wheel. On the wheel. What are you doing, sir? You're driving the wrong way on a one-way street. What are you doing?
And when the officers approached his vehicle, they immediately detected a strong odor of alcohol. They asked Jason where he was headed, but he appeared confused and was unable to respond clearly. Now, the arrest report stated that Jason was severely impaired, very unstable on his feet and slurring his words. And at one point during the stop, he admitted to the officers that he had, quote, drunk enough to be bad that night.
Okay, how much have you had to drink?
I was gonna say, I mean, you gotta be real drunk to not even be looking at her or trying to like weasel a little drunk scheme, you know? Like he must be like nearly blackout.
Drink tonight. Enough to be bad?
Now, during that stop, the police found again a loaded .45
That's a horrible answer. Enough to be bad.
caliber semi-automatic pistol in Jason's vehicle, along with a spare loaded magazine. They also found a nearly empty bottle of Captain Morgan rum and a cup of clear liquid in the console.
Watch your step there. There's a curb here. We're gonna go on this sidewalk right over here, okay?
Okay.
Can you stand right here in front of me?
Sure.
And face toward me, okay? Alright. You okay?
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm good.
Jason was then charged with operating a vehicle under the influence, improper handling of a firearm in a vehicle, which is a felony, and several other offenses. And in April of 2024, a grand jury indicted him on these charges. But instead of being held in jail, Jason was released in May of 2024 on
Why?
a $5,000 bond. Now, as part of his release conditions, he was restricted from owning any firearms. He was also ordered to get a scram alcohol monitoring bracelet, which is
I feel like even bond shouldn't be a thing. You shouldn't be able to pay money and get out of the sentence like at all. Like you should have to sit in jail like everybody else. I feel like that's not. And then they just have dumb loan, you know, jail loan things that front you the money and then you're just in debt. So it's not even like they have the money.
the device you wear on your ankle that detects if you've been drinking. However, Jason never actually got the scram bracelet, nor did he dispose of any of his guns. He simply didn't do them, and apparently nobody checked to make sure he complied with the court order. Now, surprisingly, records showed that 2 months before the March 2024 incident, Jason tried to get help for his dangerous behavior. In January of 2024, he actually called the mental health hotline and informed the person who answered that he was planning to check himself out of this world, and shortly after, local authorities were dispatched to his home for a wellness check, and when they arrived, they found Jason in what they described as a mental health crisis. Officers said that he was drinking wine straight from the bottle, and he even described to them a specific plan he had to unalive himself using 2 of his guns. Now, normally when police run into
someone should just ask how he's doing. I mean, what's really going on with him, you know? He's being kind of crazy. Maybe we should figure out what happened.
Someone who is clearly falling apart, there are clear ways to intervene, perhaps take him to a hospital, perform a psych evaluation, or maybe just remove the weapons. But none of that actually happened, and it wasn't really their choice. Ohio doesn't have a red flag law, which means that police or family can't actually ask a judge to temporarily take someone's guns, even if that person is clearly a danger to himself or others. So despite these warning signs, there
Bro, how does a law like that get passed? Where you're not even allowed to ask?
someone's guns, even if that person is
Not even allowed to ask temporarily.
clearly a danger to himself or others. So despite these warning signs, there was no legal way to actually remove Jason's firearms without his consent. Now, the police officers found an
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to live there. That just seems like a massive oversight.
open treatment spot for him in Indiana, and they took him at his word that he would go there. Now, the really questionable part here is that there was no follow-up to make sure that he actually got treatment or that his guns were actually removed from his home. And that's how we got to this tragic situation. Now, 4 days after the Taco Bell shooting, hundreds of people gathered on the front lawn of Stowe City Hall for a candlelight vigil in Megan's honor. And the same month, Megan's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit arguing her death could have been prevented. But as of now, the lawsuit names only Jason's Williams.
Ooh, who you're suing the guy who did it as if it could have been prevented? I feel like that's not solid.
Estate as a defendant, and no other person or organization have been added yet. Now, fortunately, a year after Megan's death, Ohio Senator Casey Weinstein introduced a bill called the Megan's Way Out. And basically, this bill requires new drive-thrus to have an escape lane.
I agree with that, actually. I mean, that's nice. Look, you could have just easily just drove straight through there. Like, if he's ramming me in a truck, I don't even care about my car at that point. Like,
drivers
gone.
aren't actually trapped in emergency situations. And as heartbreaking as Megan's story is, this next case is even more unsettling, because this time there were no warning signs at all.
Dorian Carver went to work at Taco Bell in Scott Township on November 9th, but never made it home.
On November 9, 2022, just
shooting.
after noon in Scott Township, Pennsylvania, 32-year-old Dorian Carver walked out of the Taco Bell on Cochran Road, where he'd been working his shift. Now, a few minutes earlier, he and his manager, 23-year-old Zaire Simmons, had gotten into a heated argument inside the restaurant, loud enough that customers in the dining room could actually hear them. So as Dorian walked out of the building and headed down to Cochran Road, Zaire followed him outside. And what happened next turned a bad day at work into a case that Allegheny County would never forget. Now, before we get into what happened next, it helps to understand who Dorian was. Born on November 1st, 1990, Dorian...
I mean, that's kind of outside beef that you're bringing to Taco Bell. I guess that's what all these are going to be. But, I mean, why is Taco Bell implicated in all of these? Like, they didn't do nothing except have deals.
Dorian lived in Atrona Heights in Harrison Township, just outside Pittsburgh. He was the son of Richard Carver and Carmela Wilson. His siblings, Chiffon Carver and Jerail Carver, said Dorian was caring and the kind of brother who would drop everything to help others. His mother, Carmela, said he was a protector and a beloved son, someone their family was deeply proud of. He worked at the Taco Bell on Cochran Road, and by all accounts, he showed up, did his job, and avoided any major...
I feel like of all fast food workers, I feel like Taco Bell has like the best customer service like baseline, you know? Like you get some good and some bad. Like you do with everything. But I mean, Taco Bell I feel like has a pretty good standard, you know? People are pretty nice most of the time. I've never been like totally wanting to fight the worker at Taco Bell. Like I have at like Wendy's or like Popeyes. Oh my God. I hate Popeyes. I like the food, but I hate the establishment. My cat's trying to... Okay.
issues. Zaire, on the other hand, was younger, only 23 at the time, and his background was very different from Dorian's. According to records, he grew up in foster care and moved between homes throughout his childhood. And by his teenage years, he'd already seen repeated violence, as he witnessed a shooting at a playground in Pittsburgh's Homewood neighborhood. He also lost his older brother and his best friend to violence.
What was the tea though? Like what he's 23, he's so young. Why did he like decide to do that?
And despite all that, Zaire worked his way up at the Taco Bell on Cochran Road, eventually becoming a shift manager, which meant that he had authorities over other employees, including Dorian. But outside of work, their dynamic looked very different. Despite being Dorian's manager, Zaire depended on him and his fiancée, who we're going to be calling Jenna. Zaire needed rides to work and home after his shifts. This act of generosity to Zaire, however, wouldn't stop what happened between them on November 9, 2022. That morning started like any other. Customers came in and out, and orders went out as usual, until around noon, when Zaire handed Dorian a written warning for a policy violation. Now, the exact details of this warning were never made public, but whatever was written on that paper made Dorian really angry, and the two men started arguing inside the restaurant, and according to witnesses, it didn't stay verbal for long. Dorian shoved Zaire, who shoved back, and two line cooks quickly stepped in to pull them apart.
Okay, this was totally work related then. This isn't outside beef. I thought this was not going to be Taco Bell related.
Before things escalated. Now, once they were separated, Dorian walked out of the Taco Bell completely, heading down Cochran Road toward the Northwestern Mutual building. He tried to get away from the argument and walked into the Northwestern Mutual's lobby to call Jenna for a ride, as he'd left his phone at Taco Bell. But before he could actually make the call, Zaire walked in right behind him, with his hand tucked inside his jean jacket, and inside that lobby, the argument resumed right where it left off. And then Zaire pulled out a .40 caliber handgun, loaded the chamber, and fired. Dorian was shot twice before he collapsed on the tiled floor.
I imagine the proposal is, hey, don't submit the write-up or I'll shoot you. But, bro, I feel like that's not going to help you stay in good standing at work. I think it's like past that point.
Zaire then turned and fled the scene, gun still in hand. Now, the first 911 calls came within seconds. Scott Township police officers arrived first and found Dorian in the lobby, where he was immediately pronounced dead. And because the shooter, Zaire, fled, the response quickly escalated into a large search for an armed suspect. And so multiple departments, including SWAT, moved in, while nearby schools like Lincoln Elementary, Jefferson Elementary, and Jefferson Middle School were placed on lockdown. Even people at the Bethel Church and the nearby Giant Eagle store with...
Imagine being in the school that's on lockdown because of a Taco Bell beef.
Told to remain indoors. Now, not long after that, Allegheny County Police arrived and took over the homicide investigation. And as the search expanded, Mount Lebanon Police also pushed out.
I used to always think it was like a whole situation that they're trying to manage, and it's like a real deal, but they're just being like preventative sometimes.
Suspect description, and seeing countless officers searching for an armed shooter had locals worried for their safety.
They had rifles, AK-47s, which was I thought something really bad was happening.
Fortunately, staff at Northwestern Mutual confirmed that none of their employees or clients were hurt. Now later on, police would recover the .40 caliber handgun used in the shooting behind a vacant building next to the Northwestern Mutual office. And forensic testing later confirmed that the gun matched the shell casings recovered at the scene, leading detectives to believe that Zaire
Don't just put it behind a building. Like, I mean, come on. That's the lowest effort criminal ever.
simply dropped it there as he ran. Now despite all the witnesses' accounts and the gun being recovered, hours passed and there was still
He just dropped it, maybe. Like, maybe he didn't intentionally put it there.
no sign of Zaire. Then around 7:45 that evening, roughly 7.5 hours after the shooting, Zaire walked into an Allegheny County police station and turned himself in, though his reason for surrendering wasn't actually announced to the public.
We're just still like in shock because here he went to work. All he did is go to work. And then for him to end up dead
Yeah,
at
but
work.
that's his whole thing is work. So when he's like threatened with a write-up, you know, he's probably worked there for a long time. He's never had a write-up, and all of a sudden, this young manager that's younger than him wants to give me a write-up, you know? He just snapped.
Work? It makes no sense.
Zaire was charged with criminal homicide, but that wasn't actually all. Detectives also traced the .40 caliber pistol and found it had been reported stolen. So Zaire
Well, that shit gets really deep then. Never mind.
also received separate firearm-related offenses, including receiving stolen property and carrying a firearm without a license. And so on January 13, 2023, about 2 months after the shooting, Zaire appeared in district court for his preliminary hearing, where prosecutors were expected to present enough evidence for the charges to move forward. However, Zaire waived his rights to the hearing, so all charges against him went straight to trial. And during the hearing, members of Dorian's family were present in the courtroom. This included his aunt, Adrienne Young, who understood this laws better than most. She was a victim advocate and the director of Tree of Hope, a faith-based anti-violence organization in Pittsburgh, which she founded more than 20 years earlier after her own son was killed. He was just 18.
The ultimate justice is for him to never, ever see daylight again. For him to think about what he did every day that he's in that jail cell.
Now 4 weeks later, on February 14th, Zaire was arraigned in common pleas court and pleaded not guilty. Now his defense team actually didn't dispute Zaire firing the gun. In fact, Zaire actually admitted on the stand that he shot Dorian, but his defense team centered its case on the fear, arguing that Zaire thought Dorian was reaching for a weapon and fired because he believed he was about to be attacked. And according
Yeah, I mean, they always go self-defense. I think even juries know that. So it's like kind of shaky off bat. But for them to still sell it, you know, that's...
to Zaire's testimony, by the time they reached the Northwestern Mutual building, Dorian's hands were in his waistband, and Zaire believed Dorian might actually be hiding a weapon. But during the trial, the gun charges actually started falling apart. Jared Caruso charged Zaire with receiving stolen property for the gun and carrying a firearm without actually having a license. But when it came to present evidence on those accounts, Jared had nothing. He admitted in court that he'd been waiting for evidence that never arrived in time. He said he believed they might be able to find the person the gun was stolen from, but that never came through. And because of these, the defense moved to strike both gun counts, and the judge...
Wait, what? So they just didn't give you that he didn't have the necessary evidence to support those two charges? Well, then why would you make a... What? I don't even get that.
Actually granted the motion and complained to Jared, saying, "When I'm telling a jury that Mr. Simmons is being charged with the gun being stolen and they're just hoping and guessing and praying that you're going to produce a witness, that is not a way this is supposed to happen." And the jury was then told to disregard the gun charges, and they only focused on the homicide count alone. And after only 9 hours, they reached a verdict. On February 4th, 2025, the jury found Zaire guilty.
What, they need a witness to know that he was not allowed to hold a gun? I don't get that. I really don't understand. Praying that you're going to produce a witness. I just don't understand.
When I'm telling a
that.
jury I'm going to... And day 5, the jury found Zaire guilty of first-degree murder, and under Pennsylvania law, that conviction carries a mandatory sentence of life in prison without parole. And so on May 1st, 2025, Judge Beamer handed down the sentence, and Zaire was taken into custody to begin serving life without parole. And for Dorian's family, it looked like justice had been finally served after 2.5 years of waiting. But a month later, everything fell apart. In June, Zaire's new attorney, Ryan James, filed a motion for a new trial. He argued that even though the gun charges were dropped, the damage was already done. The jury had heard from the very beginning that Zaire was charged with carrying a stolen gun. Information had painted him as dishonest and dangerous.
Wow, he might actually be a pretty good lawyer then.
before a single piece of evidence was presented, and James argued that this kind of prejudice couldn't be erased just by telling the jury to forget about it. And
yeah, I feel like you can't just drop that part, so I'm glad that actually was like something they went back on.
so in August of 2025, Judge Beamer agreed. He set aside Zair's conviction and ordered a new trial. Dorian's family was devastated when they got the news.
Like, we were just starting to calm down and settle down and start to grieve our son, and now all of a sudden that little band-aid that got over the gaping wound is just ripped off.
And so after a lot of back and forth, a new trial date was set for February 17th, 2026, where Judge Beamer would decide if Zair got another trial or if his case would be dismissed completely. And so nearly 3 years after Dorian was shot and killed while trying to walk away from a workplace argument, his family is still waiting to see if Zair could get out of prison because of a prosecutor's negligence, leaving them with no justice. Unlike this case, which ended in a surrender within hours, the next one turned into a full-blown manhunt.
Wow, no, that last one was very confusing. I feel like I got lost a few times in there, so okay.
Civilians fearing for their lives.
And they had their guns drawn just like you see on TV.
On the evening of November 10th, 2015, Jeanette Pokes was at home with her boyfriend, Elton David Crockett, when he left to meet someone about a jewelry deal. She told him not to go, because something about it just didn't feel right. He seemed uneasy too, because before walking out the door, he took off most of the jewelry he normally wore and grabbed a gun instead. Jeanette warned him again, but he simply brushed it off and promised that he would be back soon. Little did she know that nothing would be the same after that night. David was a 48-year-old man who lived in Louisville.
Oh, why this looks like just like the first guy that rammed into the girl with the truck.
Kentucky. He fathered 3 daughters from a previous relationship, Charlissa, Jessica, and Elizabeth. He was also a grandfather to another kid named Emma Rose. Now during the week, David worked at the Essex Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, looking after elderly residents and rehab patients. David's co-workers described him as gentle and the kind of guy who kept his head down.
Nice.
But on weekends, David worked at the flea market. Every Saturday and Sunday, he set up a booth at Derby Park Flea Market, a large outdoor market where vendors sold everything from antiques and electronics to used items.
This is gonna be something crazy that he sells that's just like totally ruins the vibe.
There he actually sold gold chains, rings, watches, and other jewelry, while also buying old pieces from people to resell for profit. Now vendors described David as friendly and easygoing, so it wasn't unusual for him to meet buyers or sellers outside the market when it was more convenient. And on Tuesday, November 10th, 2015, David arranged a jewelry meetup with several people. He contacted one of the buyers the day before at the flea market, and they chose a Taco Bell on Dixie Highway to handle the transaction. Now this particular Taco Bell was located in the Valley Station area, a busy, well-lit spot where cars came through and people went in and out. The parking lot circled the building, and on the side, away from the drive-thru, there was just a small waiting area. And it was there around 7:30 p.m. that customers in the drive-thru, people in parked cars, and staff inside the restaurant heard 3 loud shots and froze. And when people nearby realized someone had been shot, 911 calls started going out.
I don't know, 7:30 p.m. at a Taco Bell, I feel like is just too late to do like a swap meet situation.
Almost immediately, Louisville Metro police officers and emergency services rushed to the scene, and when they arrived, he was found lying in the parking lot. David had been shot multiple times with a pool of blood beneath him, and he was hardly breathing. Emergency services did everything they could, but a few minutes later, David was pronounced dead.
What was it for? The merchandise, like some flea market chain?
Managers at the Taco Bell restaurant locked their doors to keep the customers safe, while police set up the crime scene tape and closed off sections of the parking lot. Meanwhile, detectives photographed the scenes while officers moved through the lot, cataloging every shell casing across the pavement. And by the next morning, Louisville Metro Police confirmed that they were investigating a homicide. Detectives were going door to door asking questions, talking to—
Bro, it took till the next morning for y'all to figure out that somebody got shot by somebody else? Like, what the fuck do you think happened?
To anyone who might have been near the Taco Bell the night before. And they pulled the surveillance footage from nearby businesses, hoping that someone's camera had caught a car leaving or a person running away. But they actually found nothing. Now, what the police didn't say publicly though was that they already had leads. They arrived at 2 names, 39-year-old Larry Caffey and 34-year-old Angela Tingle. And so the police began tracking down Larry and Angela, but they were—
they kind of look like the duo that would do some weird shit at a Taco Bell.
Caffey and 34-year-old Angela Tingle.
Yep, that's the profile.
To David. And 3 days later, on November 13th, around 11:30 a.m., Louisville Metro Police spotted a vehicle on Westport Road with Larry and Angela inside, so they moved in to stop it. But instead of pulling over, Larry, who was driving, hit the gas and took off, and officers chased him.
Typical Larry. You gotta, I mean, he's living like Larry. You can't expect him not to just pull off on you.
All the way to a shopping center near St. Matthews. Now, during the pursuit, Larry rammed 2 police cruisers and hit a parked vehicle. Now, he kept driving into St. Matthews
so
before
Larry.
the chase ended on Deldridge Drive when the car crashed behind a home. Now, the duo ran from the car and forced their way into a nearby house to hide. And since officers couldn't pinpoint their
They're crazy. Larry and Angela. They're a wild bunch.
exact location, they brought in K9 units to help with their search. Schools in the area went on lockdown as residents watched from their windows, fearing for their lives, while the officers searched front lawns, porches, and backyards. And the entire search lasted into the early afternoon, before Larry and Angela were found hiding inside a home and taken into custody around 1:30 p.m. However,
I would not hide. I don't think I'd hide anybody in my home, even like if it was like a family thing and like they're not telling me what they did. It's probably bad enough, you know. I'm not gonna question it. Like, yeah, you can hide in the basement or whatever, but if someone comes knocking, I'm not lying.
charges they were arrested for weren't for David's murder. Instead, the police brought them in because they knew that the duo had information about what happened in the Taco Bell parking lot, though neither of them were actually the shooter, which meant whoever pulled the trigger was still out there. And according to Angela's statement to the police, she wasn't present when the shooting happened. Larry actually drove a car to meet David in the Taco Bell parking lot with a 47-year-old man named Dennis Ray Stinnett and an unidentified woman in the backseat. Larry told her that David got into the front seat of the car with the jewelry and after a few moments pulled a gun on Dennis. And according to Larry, this actually caused Dennis to react first and shoot David.
What? So we spent all the time hunting down Larry and Angela and they didn't even do it. They just looked like they did it.
In the backseat. Larry told her that David got into the front seat of the car with the jewelry and after a few moments pulled a gun on Dennis. And according to Larry, this actually caused Dennis to react first and shoot David. However, before this incident, Dennis already had a long criminal history, going back decades, including burglary, robbery, and multiple drug offenses. Detectives recovered $62,500 in
Okay, I thought it was just like a little chain or something, some fake gold stuff.
Stolen jewelry before he was convicted and sent to prison. And so now, using Angela's statement and his prior record, police tracked Dennis down later that day, arrested him, and charged him with David's murder. His .45 caliber handgun was recovered, and Dennis admitted that it was the gun used to kill David. And
bro, you're transacting like 60 G's at a Taco Bell at 7:30 p.m. That's just crazy behavior. I mean, that's only something Larry would do, and I would approve.
So in total, he was charged with murder, tampering with physical evidence, possession of a handgun by a convicted felon, and possession of a defaced firearm. His bond was set to $100,000.
Of a defaced firearm? That's crazy. I mean, you know how much work it takes to do that?
And so the arrest gave David's family a brief sense of relief. On Saturday, November 14, 2015, family and friends gathered to honor David. His funeral was held in Campbellsville, the town where he grew up, with his family and close friends.
Damn, he was just a nice, like, humanity caring person because he was like helping out
in attendance. Now,
the nursing home or whatever.
The very next day, Dennis made his first court appearance. And despite the initial murder charge, the case didn't actually go to trial. Instead, it moved through the court system for more than 2 years before Dennis took a plea deal. Dennis claimed that David pulled a gun on him first, creating uncertainty about how the shooting actually unfolded. And so those questions actually made it difficult for prosecutors to prove intent to kill. And so as a result, the murder charge was reduced. And so on April 26, 2018, Dennis ultimately pled guilty to second-degree manslaughter instead. Now, Larry was also booked for 16
That had to be like advice from a lawyer type stuff. Like, how did he just know to say that and throw a wrench in the whole thing? That's some lawyer stuff.
counts, including 3 of reckless endangerment of police officers, assault, and actually methamphetamine possession, while Angela was charged with burglary and possession of drug items. But our next story is even more shocking. Eventually,
I mean, of course, Larry and Angela, they just party, so you're not going to find them without drugs, I assume.
becoming one of the deadliest hostage situations in American history.
A robbery allegedly committed by the two. A robbery where not only...
Oh, dude, there's a vintage Taco Bell.
In American
Look at
history.
that.
A robbery.
Oh, back when cents mattered, back when change was like sick. 59 cents, 79 cents, 99 cents. We're all talking about the dollar days are gone. The 59-cent days are gone. They've been gone.
Allegedly committed by the two. A robbery where not only money was taken, but life.
On the morning of January 26, 1991, just before 1 a.m., a Taco Bell on Valley View Lane, Irving, Texas, was closing for the night. Inside the building were 3 employees. 20-year-old Teresa Fraga, 23-year-old Frank Fraga, and 28-year-old Michael John Peelan. What none of them realized, however, is that in a matter of minutes, that morning would take a very disturbing turn. Teresa lived in Irving, Texas, and worked as a crew member at Taco Bell on Valley View Lane. She was already raising a 1-year-old daughter, and at the time, she was...
Oh, dude, I just don't think I could do it. I've never worked in fast food, so I greatly respect the people that do, but man, I don't think I could do it.
4 months pregnant with her second child. Now,
oh no, he did. Yeah, I thought he like fucked that up. That was fine. I just don't think like for 5 minutes it seems really fun to like, oh, I'm making the thing I eat all the time if you like go to work at Taco Bell. But I don't know. I just after a while it's just so monotonous, and that's why it looks like ass when you open it up out the bag.
Now she came in for a shift that evening, where her 23-year-old cousin Frank Frager worked alongside her. Now Frank lived in Dallas, Texas, but he and Teresa were close, and the job at Taco Bell gave them a chance to spend time as a family, while they also earned a pay.
Bro, is that okay to be working at the same location with a family? Do they let you do that anymore? I feel like they wouldn't.
Now Frank was very friendly, and his close friends described him as someone who showed up on time and did the work without complaint. Frank was really known for a strong work ethic, but when it actually came to closing up the restaurant each night, that responsibility usually fell to Michael, because he was actually the assistant manager and lived in Fort Worth, Texas. Now Michael had worked his way up in the company and took his—
He looks like a Mike. No, he looks like a Michael. He looks like he is Mike, but he only likes to go by Michael.
Job seriously. Now less than a mile away, 19-year-old Jesse Carlos San Miguel drove through Irving and headed towards the same Taco Bell restaurant. Now Jesse had actually dropped out of school in 10th grade and was well known to local police because he'd been arrested 9 times and had even been accused of shooting a man. But despite all of that, he still applied for a job at the same Taco Bell and had been turned down. Now inside that Taco Bell, 17-year-old Jerome Mike Green was also worked part-time there and was a close friend of Teresa. But his—
Bro, he looks like he did something bad. He looked like he did something you can never come back from, where they put that like little mask on you.
Jerome Mike Green was also worked part-time there and was a close friend of Teresa, but his shift ended around 11 p.m. and after Jerome clocked out and left for the night, the remaining employees began their usual closing routine. The 3 cleaned the kitchen, locked the front doors, closed the registers, and gathered the night's cash. Now Michael was responsible for the time lock safe, which was programmed to open only at a set time, which meant that he had to wait a while for it to open before actually storing the money inside. Now while the trio cleaned up, Seung Chang Wing, a family friend of the Fragers, parked outside and waited to give them a ride home, completely unaware that danger was actually very nearby.
Oh no, it wasn't even one of the workers.
Because less than 100 feet away from him, Jerome actually met with Jesse outside the building, who parked nearby, and together they waited for an opportunity to actually break into the restaurant. And the opportunity came when one of the 3 opened the back door to take out the trash.
Ooh, that's actually scary, dude. Especially if you're a closer and then you realize, oh shit, that's why they give me the key, so that this stuff doesn't happen. What's happening right now? A robbery.
When the door swung open, the duo forced their way into the building.
Oh, with shotguns? Oh, hell no. Yeah, I don't get paid enough. Like, I know y'all gave me the key and whatnot. Sorry.
With guns and masks to protect their identity. It was pretty much an inside job. Now once inside, they rounded up the employees and forced Michael to stand at the safe, making him wait for the time lock mechanism to release so it could be open. And while they waited, one of them took Teresa and Frank to the back of the restaurant.
You probably, how much would you think you would get? Like maybe a couple $100, like in the banks that they put out. Like I don't think you get a whole lot of money.
And forced them into the walk-in freezer. Now one of them actually noticed them waiting in his car, so they also forced him out at gunpoint, marched him inside, and shoved him into the—
Bro, look directly at the camera. I mean, these guys are like children.
The freezer with Teresa and Frank. Now when the time lock safe
in the brain, children, they look like grown men, but they just didn't grow up.
Finally opened, Michael handed over the cash and was also forced into the freezer. The total amount they stole was approximately $1,390, which they then stuffed into Taco Bell takeout bags before leaving the restaurant. Now
$1,400 for that, I feel like is just not worth like bringing guns and waving it in people's face. Y'all had to split it too, right? It's 3 or 4 of you guys.
2 minutes after they left, Jesse actually turned around and went back inside. He walked to the freezer, pulled the door open, and looked at the 4 people huddled inside. Then he asked them to give him one good reason why he shouldn't kill them. And when no one actually gave him the answer he was looking for, he pulled out a 9mm pistol and fired. Now 4 hours later, around 5 a.m., Irving police spotted a pickup truck moving oddly less than a—
Well, why would they even like... That he initially left the employees alive, but changed his mind. He returned to the freezer where he allegedly... Oh, wow. I thought they were just trying to get the money and get out. Like a simple thing, but they just decided to kill people?
And fired. Now 4 hours later, around 5 a.m., Irving police spotted a pickup truck moving oddly less than a mile from the Taco Bell on Valley View Lane. They pulled it over outside a convenience store based on suspicion that the driver was drunk. And during the stop, one officer actually noticed a Taco Bell takeout sack on the front seat stuffed with wads of cash. And after a brief search of the truck, officers found 2 stocking masks, 2 pairs of gloves, a jammed 9mm auto—
Bro, and they accidentally caught you because you were just moving moving weird.
Automatic pistol that smelled like it had been fired recently, and a large amount of cash stuffed inside another Taco Bell bag. Now Jesse and Jerome were arrested for reckless driving, suspicion of drunk driving, and driving with an expired inspection sticker. But despite only being arrested for that, the officers still radioed in the drunk drivers and the stolen cash. And they began checking Taco Bell restaurants in Irving. And since the fast food chain had 6 restaurants in the city at the time, investigators made calls and drove to each location. And so in the early hours of the same day, Captain TJ Hall and other officers arrived at the Valley View Lane location and found it to be closed. The front doors were locked, the lights were off, and of course no one was able to answer when
another inside job.
They knocked. Now the officers then actually decided to break it through the drive-through window, and this is where they found the registers to be closed and the kitchen clean. But when they walked toward the back of the restaurant and opened the walk-in freezer,
oh, that's so sad. They didn't even know the bodies were in there. They just happened to figure that out because the other one nearby got hit.
they saw all 4 inside, shot in the head, lying in a massive pool of blood. Michael and Frank had each been shot twice in the back of the head. Teresa, who was again 4 months pregnant, had also been shot twice. Celine had been shot in the shoulder, but the bullet actually traveled.
What? She was pregnant too? That's so sad, dude. That's like 5 lives.
Through his neck and exited near his nose. Now after the discovery, the officers immediately secured the scene and called for homicide detectives. And within hours, investigators swarmed the restaurant. They photographed the crime scene and collected all the evidence they needed. And back at the police station, the detectives then began interrogating Jerome and Jesse, but neither of them really talked.
Officers finding suspects before they traced their alleged victims. Police were led to the murder scene by a traffic stop at this intersection several blocks from the restaurant.
Now because of this, investigators moved quickly to search Jesse's home in Irving, where they recovered items linking him to the crime, including clothing with gunpowder residue. Now while authorities worked to build their case, the effects of the crime was actually felt by many people across Irving and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The families of the 4 held vigils and funerals in their memory. Now especially Teresa, because of her age, her pregnancy, and the fact—
Bro, that is so sad too, because there was like 2 family members, so then that family lost 2 people that day. That's like so incredibly sad. And for no reason, like they just decided to switch it up and shoot them all, like just because they didn't have a good answer to like, why should I let you live? Wow.
Charges at the time of the murders. Now fortunately, once local authorities had enough evidence, Jesse and Jerome were formally charged with 4 counts of capital murder, 1 for each victim, and were held without bail. Now because Jerome was 17 at the time of the murders, he couldn't actually receive the death penalty under Texas law. Now under the felony—
I was gonna say, I said it looked like he did something bad, and absolutely, quadruple murder is pretty bad.
Murder rule, his participation in the robbery made him equally responsible for what happened inside. And so in 1992, he pleaded guilty to capital murder in exchange for a reduced sentence. He received a 50-year prison term and became eligible for parole in 2004 after serving only about 13 years. However, being eligible didn't actually mean he could be released, and he actually remained incarcerated after his parole was denied. And so under the terms of his sentence, he won't be expected to complete his full—
Bro, that's how it should go all the time. Eligible for parole, but not just like, oh, here you go. Like now you're eligible, there you go. Like they should make it like, we got to make sure you're good. Like, and some of them, like him, you know you're never going to give it to him. You just say that's when you're eligible.
Term until 2042. However, this wasn't the same for Jesse. He was already 19, and so his trial with the charges of 4 counts of capital murder took place in 1991. Now at the time, Texas Attorney General John Kernan presented the public and jury with extensive evidence of violent behavior, including a testimony that Jesse had actually threatened a classmate with a knife before later knocking him unconscious. He also shot another student in the stomach before a confrontation, shot into a teenager.
Oh my God. See, why are people like this even able to do more bad things? I feel like you hurt somebody with a gun, it's like no question. Well, I guess you gotta determine intent, so never mind. It's harder than I'm saying.
Teenager's home after a dispute and repeatedly took part in violent fights he often started. And so after a brief discussion, the jury actually voted for the death penalty. And so Judge Harold Enns formally sentenced Jesse to death. Now Jesse of course appealed his conviction and argued that racial stereotyping influenced his death sentence. And during a death row interview, he said,
"The evidence is so obvious that I had a very unfair trial. They did not base the decision on my history or my individuality.
He's really trying to pull the race card in court.
It was based on me being a Mexican. There's nothing I could do to stop what happened. People react in the heat of the moment. When something happens out of instinct, we just do it. We don't do it out of intent. We don't do it on purpose. It just happens."
You instinctually robbed a Taco Bell and then committed quadruple murder? Like, that has nothing to do with you being Mexican. That's like the worst race card pull ever.
However, of course, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals rejected his claims and left his conviction and death sentence in place. And so on June 29, 2000, nearly 9.5 years after the murders, Jesse Carlos San Miguel...
9.5 years? That's not even fair. He had to wait a decade to like deal with the consequences?
28 now, was executed by lethal injection. The execution took place in Huntsville, Texas, as 6 members of...
Oh, it took 10 years to lethally inject him. Okay, that's actually kind of fair though. That's not that long.
His victims' families watched him die. He was pronounced dead at 6:19 p.m. But the next Taco Bell case would grow into one of Georgia's most fiercely disputed murder convictions.
Inman was convicted of killing a Taco Bell manager in Adel, Georgia.
Donna Brown was 40 years old, and everything in her life revolved around her 7-year-old son. As a single mother in Georgia, she raised him and paid the bills, and she spent most of her time working in the fast food industry, trying to give her son a better life. Now, by September of 1998, her dedication had finally paid off, and she was promoted to night manager at the local Taco Bell, putting her in charge of closing the restaurant each night. Now, on the morning of September 19, 1998, Donna was closing the restaurant only for the second time at the location. She was still learning the routine, including taking the day's deposit.
Oh, yes, that just adds to the like hate of working at a fast food. I would hate to be just like hit, and I know it so well that I'm not even thinking, you know, like that type of like, that's 9 to 5, you know, that's when you're just doing it all day, every day. Like that's the grind. Doing it one day is like one thing.
To the bank drop box down the road. Now around 2 a.m. Donna finished counting the money and sealed $1,732.
Ooh, that's a whole lot more than the other place had. Well, a little bit more.
In a deposit bag, and she walked outside her car with the bag in her hand. However, an unknown man was waiting near the entrance, tucked into a corner. He let her get close, came up behind her, and hit her on the head. Donna immediately dropped to the pavement, and while she was barely conscious, the masked man shot her, grabbed the cash and her keys, and then drove away. Now, when
Bro, I feel like you didn't even need to shoot her though. She was knocked out, and you could have just grabbed the money and left.
Donna failed to return home after a shift. Her close relatives contacted local authorities, and within a few hours, officers arrived at the Taco Bell and discovered that she'd been shot once through her right eye, with the open deposit bag beside her. They also realized that her car was missing, and so they immediately began searching the...
Bro, shooting somebody in the face is like so insane. Like, you gotta really have no empathy.
Surrounding area for the stolen vehicle, and shortly after, they found the car abandoned in the parking lot of a closed restaurant, which had been damaged after it was driven into a chain link fence at the entrance. Now, after the initial investigation, police returned Donna's car to her family, and it was then that the relative actually noticed a homemade ski mask still inside, one that police had somehow overlooked.
Good job, cops. You missed a ski mask in the car? How?
And so
really just not doing your job at that point. Like, how do you miss a mask in the car? If it was like a ring or something, it'd be different. But a black mask, most likely?
They alerted investigators who collected it and logged it into evidence. Now, in the small town Adel that they lived in, a murder as public and brutal as Donna's placed immediate pressure on the police to solve the case fast. Now, Agent Jamie Steinberg led the investigation as the police interviewed employees as well as witnesses and began working through what little evidence they actually had. And within actually 24 hours, a local drug dealer named Zachary Payne told investigators to look into a man named Devonia Inman. He didn't actually know him well, but Devonia had pointed a gun at him just days before the murder, and Zachary thought he was capable of something like this. Now, investigators also spoke to Larissa Chapman, who'd been working the closing shift that night. Now, she initially told them that she'd seen nothing unusual outside the restaurant.
Bro, I feel like you're not gonna know. Like, it's usually not an inside thing, right? Like, they just know somebody's gonna walk out with, and they're probably gonna be the manager. Like, been frightened that night by a voice emanating from the shrubbery while she waited in the restaurant parking lot for a ride home. She said she recognized the voice from that of appellant and described the speaker as bald and wearing a white tank top.
5 days later, after a suspect had already been taken into custody, investigators returned to re-interview witnesses. And when they got back to Larissa, she said that while waiting in the parking lot for a ride, she'd heard a voice coming from nearby bushes and recognized it as Devonia's. She described the man as bald and wearing a white tank top. Now, Devonia Inman was 20 years old and had only been in Adel for about 2 months. He was the father of a young boy, Trevensky Jackson, and in 1998, he moved from California after his mother, Dina Ray, sent him to live with relatives, hoping to pull him away from the troublesome company he was keeping back at home. Now, he'd actually already previously pleaded guilty in 1995 to a felony charge of making terroristic threats.
Wow.
And fast forward to September 25th.
Wow, what do you have to say for that? That's insane. Terroristic threats? Like, what are you telling people?
In 1995 to a felony charge of making terroristic threats. to arrest Devonia at his aunt's house, but actually on an outstanding probation violation. And while he was in custody, 3 more people came forward and gave statements placing him at the center of the case. Marquetta Thomas, the sister of Devonia's girlfriend, told investigators that on the day of the murder, Devonia came to her house, acting nervous and strange. She said that his clothes had blood on him and that he carried a large amount of cash. Then investigators heard from Kwame Spalding, an inmate who shared a cell with Devonia after his arrest. Kwame actually told investigators that Devonia had confessed while they were locked up together. Kwame said Devonia described hiding in the bushes and waiting for Donna to come out. And according to him, Devonia said he tried to grab the deposit bag and then shot Donna with a revolver. And finally, Virginia Tatum, a news...
Bro, I mean, he's over here talking about it while he's in jail. I mean, that's so stupid. All these criminals are so stupid.
Paper carrier told investigators that she drove her delivery route near the Taco Bell before dawn on September 19th. And according to her, she saw Donna's car speeding away from the area and said that she got a clear look at the driver. Now, Virginia said the driver abandoned Donna's car and left in a second vehicle with a different person inside. But instead of opening a case for the driver that aided his escape, the state simply used their claim to strengthen its case against Devonia. And with all those statements in hand, the prosecution charged Devonia with murder, armed robbery, theft, and a gun charge.
Bro, for $1,700, like, that is not anything, dude. You're gonna have to go do another, like, job or hit or whatever it is you call it.
Was based entirely on the allegation that he'd used a firearm during Donna's murder and that as a convicted felon, he wasn't permitted to possess one. And this is where it gets interesting.
Bro, and he literally could have just took the money and left. He didn't have to shoot her at all.
Trial began on June 11, 2001, and District Attorney Catherine Harris Helms and Assistant District Attorney Kimberly Whiddon opened for the state, citing Devonia Inman's 1995 felony conviction to tell the jury why he couldn't actually legally own a gun, and then moved on to the crime scene evidence. Now, the medical examiner testified that Donna was shot while she was on the ground, with the muzzle about a feet from her head when the gun was fired, and the bullet that came from the scene came from a .44 special revolver. But when the witnesses actually took stand, suddenly the story began to fall apart. First, Marquetta confessed that
basically I made the entire story up just to get him out of the picture.
Because Marquetta actually...
Hold on, what? How did she...
When the witnesses actually took stand, suddenly the story began to fall apart. First, Marquetta confessed that
basically I made the entire story up just to get him out of the picture.
Because Marquetta actually wanted to keep her sister from Devonia and thought that getting him in trouble with the police would do that.
So you made it up?
Basically, I made it up. Yeah, just to get him out the picture because I was so hurt and crushed because she still really wanted to be with him. She liked him, and I'm like, I can't stand this dude just beat on my baby sister.
She also said that investigators kept coming to her job, taking her out to eat, riding around with her.
I don't know, like, fake allegation stuff is just, I feel you can't come back from that. And she's just like sitting here, oh yeah, well, I'm talking about it now, like it doesn't, like it's okay.
And at 18 or 19, she got caught up in it. But now that it was 3 years later, and she'd been incarcerated herself, sitting in county jail while Devonia's trial was underway, she began to understand what she'd done. Now, Larisha also took back her statements, telling the jury she was just making that up because she was tired of detectives calling her. Now, already 2 of the 4 witnesses had just admitted under oath, but Kwame and Virginia actually stayed true to their original statements. And yet, even after Marquetta and Larisha backed away from their stories, the prosecutors told the jury to trust what they first told police. And under Georgia's law, those earlier statements could actually still be treated as evidence. But Devonia's defense team, including attorney Melinda Riles, decided to go for a different story. They argued that the real killer was someone who actually worked at the Taco Bell with Don. His name was Hercules Brown, who, despite sharing her last name, had no relation with Don. And his defense team actually found 3 witnesses who were willing to testify that Hercules recruited them to help with the robbery. And so during the trial, they found...
Ooh, they went to his, like, people he approached as, like, clients to help with it, help with the hit. That's so bad, dude. He had to keep it small town. You can't trust nobody, man.
Had motions and raised the issue with the court. But when it actually came to it, it was ruled against the defense and the testimony was kept out. And so on June 25th, 2001, the jury returned guilty verdicts. And the next day, Devonia was sentenced to life without parole. Now, the conviction gave Donna's Brown family a sense of closure. But for Dina, Devonia's mother, the verdict was heartbreaking because she truly believed that the state had convicted the wrong man.
I want justice for my son. I pray to God that I'm alive to see him walk out of prison a free man.
But after sentencing, Devonia was transferred to Augusta State Medical Prison to begin serving his time. His son Trevensky...
Yeah, but why would they deny it if there wasn't, like, sketchy on some level? Like, You know, there's got to be something to that.
Was an infant and too young to actually understand where his father had gone or why. And as the years passed, Stravinsky grew up around prison visits, and he sat across from Devonia in visiting rooms and spoke to him through the glass. But the story doesn't actually end here. 213 days before the trial ever began, on November 10, 2000, while Devonia sat in jail waiting for his trial, another man walked into Bennett's grocery in the middle of the day. The owner, William Carroll Bennett, was behind the counter. He was the person the store was named after, and in a town that small, most people knew exactly who he was. Now, also working that day was a clerk named Rebecca Ann Browning. Now, the man who walked into the store had an accomplice, Wesley Mason Jr., and together they came to rob the place. And moments after they entered the store, they picked up baseball bats and beat William Carroll Bennett and Rebecca Browning until they killed them. Now, a random customer, Wayne Peters, was also severely beat but barely survived.
Bro, why are y'all robbing places for money, right? So stop. I don't understand the killing of people. Like, it just leaves evidence. Like, you're smart enough to know that, right?
Now, within days, the police arrested the two men for the attack at Bennett's grocery. And the first man, Wesley, pleaded guilty and received life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, the other man was Hercules Brown, and he also pleaded guilty and received the same sentence. This was the same Hercules that Devonia's team had tried to present as the real killer.
Oh, wow. So they ended up getting him anyway, but the courts rejected it.
Of Donna Brown. Now, after Devonia's conviction became final, his lawyers filed appeals and post-conviction motions over the years, arguing that the trial was unfair and that there was no physical evidence tying him to the crime. But the court still denied each effort and left the conviction in place. And for more than a decade, nothing would change. But then in 2011, the Georgia Innocence Project, a non-profit that fights wrongful convictions, took the case. And fortunately for them, DNA testing had actually advanced since 1998, and so the attorneys focused on a key item from the original investigation, the ski mask found in Donna's car. And so they filed a motion to test it, and after a legal fight, the court actually granted the request. And later that year, the results came back, and the DNA on the inside of the mask matched Hercules. But the DNA result wasn't the worst of it. The state had actually known about Hercules all along, because in September of 2000, months before Devonia's trial and weeks before the Bennett's grocery murders, police pulled Hercules over outside a supermarket in Adel, and after searching his car, they found a gun and cocaine, and he was arrested and charged on these counts. And the police actually found two items in the trunk, a handgun and a homemade ski mask cut from fabric with eye hole.
Oh, that's why they didn't see it in the first place. They knew about it and they just said they didn't see it. So they could like fix it. So they never have to seem like they're wrong, seems like. Like they're just trying to make it like, oh, that was our conviction and it was correct. And then they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that stays. Because they probably have like a rate of cases they need to solve and shit like that. Super corrupt.
And the police actually also documented the stop and the items in a report, and under the Brady rule, the state had a duty to turn over evidence that could help the defense, but Devonia's team actually never saw it back then. It stayed buried for years until the defense pulled the police file during post-conviction work, and so Devonia's defense team went back to court seeking a new trial, and this time they called Hercules to the stand, but he of course refused to testify. And without Hercules actually saying anything in court, the state still argued that it didn't prove that Devonia was innocent, and so they kept pushing the idea that both men could have been involved. But in January of 2014, Kwame actually came forward saying,
basically everything was coerced. The detective was telling me he'll let me go home and stuff to say about the man.
And during this period, Lee Grimes, a former co-worker of Virginia Tatum, revealed that Virginia didn't actually go to the investigators until a month after the crime, when she discovered the $5,000 reward. Now 2 years later, on
oh, dude, this is just bad all over. Like everyone's out for trying to like make it for themselves, and it's causing all these issues for everybody else.
Until a month after the crime, in 2016, an investigative series by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution called DNA Denial brought the case to a much larger mainstream audience. And around the same time, Jessie Gabelsino became a visible part of Devonia's effort. She worked at the law school clinic at Georgia State University and collaborated with the Georgia Innocence Project. And she also visited Devonia in prison and brought law students into the work. And so by 2018, a new legal team had taken on Devonia's case. And they filed a legal request asking the court to review whether his continued imprisonment was lawful and whether he actually deserved relief.
Bro, that's the problem I think with the whole courts thing. Like the lawyers thing, it really is like if you have a good one or not. And then it like changes the outcomes. And then everyone has a skewed view of like how it's gonna go. Because it all depends on your lawyer. When it really like actually does, you know? But there's no way to fix that.
And so on September 19, 2019, the Georgia Supreme Court issued a decision that allowed Devonia's case to move forward. And with the case back in motion, the court then started looking hard at the physical evidence. And by June 2021, the judge finally treated the mask as strong evidence, tying it to Hercules. And so the court wanted to question him directly. And so they arranged to bring him out to testify while he was still in prison. But Hercules actually refused to leave his cell. Even if they forced him into the room, he would still refuse to answer on the record. So the testimony never even started. But 5 months later, Judge Christina ruled on the petition and granted Devonia a new trial because she found that the prosecutors actually violated his constitutional rights by not disclosing that Hercules had been arrested in September of 2000.
Yeah, bro, but why are you being sassy, being like, oh, I'm not coming out no matter what? Like, that's just some childish behavior.
With a similar homemade mask in his car. And so on September 20th, 2021, all of Devonia's charges were dropped. And so the same day, Devonia walked out of Augusta State Pinnacle Prison after 23 years behind bars. He went—
No way, it took 23 years to solve it though? Bro. That's too long, man. That's too long. Like, y'all aren't professionals.
A 20-year-old and walked out at 43. And waiting outside the prison were his mother, Dina Ray, and his son, Travinsky Jackson. He also had a granddaughter now, 3-year-old Alona. But in our next case, the truth comes out much faster. Yet what the killer did in those few hours made it even harder to forget.
Taco Bell employees were closing down their store for the night.
Not again, dude. Not the whole store.
But little did they know, a man was hiding inside the ceiling, getting ready to murder everyone.
What do you jump up in the bathroom and get up into the roof or something? Like, what kind of a plan?
January 1994, 19-year-old Courtney Matthews was serving at Fort Campbell, a military base on the Tennessee-Kentucky border just outside Clarksville. He lived in a duplex on Ryder Avenue with 2 other roommates, soldier Carl Ward and Carl's wife, Shante. Now Courtney actually needed money to make repairs on a friend's car, so he started looking for part-time work. And on January 19, 1994, he walked into the Taco Bell on Riverside Drive and applied for a job. Now the restaurant hired him as a crew member, and by that same week, he was working the late night shifts. Now 10 days into the job, on the night of January 29th, 1994, Courtney—
Ugh, dude, every time it looks fun. It looks fun to do for like a few minutes, and then I just think about the length and the grind, and then you think about your paycheck, and it's not adding up to be enough.
Clocked out of his shift at 9:11 p.m. while his colleagues stayed behind to finish up work. Amongst them were 22-year-old Kevin Campbell, who just got married and had a 2-week-old daughter, 22-year-old Angela Wyatt, and 39-year-old Patricia Mae Price, who was a mother of 5 who had only been married 3 months and had recently moved to Clarksville from Knoxville with her husband Michael. Now locking up the restaurant that night was a different person's job. It was 24-year-old Marsha Klopp's responsibility. She was the assistant manager on duty. She was also married and had 3 children of her own, and as far as anyone knew, the only people left inside were her crew. Now at around 1:45 that morning, John Ballard, a Taco Bell shift manager who was off that night, came through the drive-thru to check on Marsha. She told him that they were running behind and probably would not be able to leave until 3:30 or 4 a.m. And so John left and the restaurant stayed open for a drive-thru. Now a few hours later, at 7:25 that morning, he returned to open the restaurant and noticed that all of the employees' cars were still in the lot. He unlocked the front door and went inside, and when he reached the back of the restaurant, he saw a body.
Oh my god, and then they never had him like coming in, like breaking in. He just like quietly got in and killed them all. That's crazy.
He lying on the floor near the rear of the building, and frightened by the sight, he ran back outside, locked the door behind him, and called 911. Now soon, Officer Tony Blakely of the Clarksville Police Department entered the Taco Bell on Riverside Drive to find all 4 members of the closing crew dead inside the restaurant. Kevin, Angela—
Bro, I've never felt like closing shifts were scary until this video. Like, it's never bothered me, but now all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, there's probably somebody waiting outside to grab the cash bag. But why are you having it leave the store? Like, that must be an older thing, because that does not, like, you don't take the cash into your personal vehicle after the night. Like, that's crazy. I don't know. I've never seen that.
Patricia and Marsha had each been shot multiple times, with some of the shots fired at close range, including shots to the head. Several of them also had injuries to their hands and arms. Now in the back office, the safe had been forced open and the locking dial blown off with a shotgun blast. There was around $3,000 missing, and shortly after, TBA agent Jeff Puckett took charge of the scene and organized a team to search the surrounding area. And
bro, that guy knew what he was doing. Oh my god.
Near the McDonald's beside the Taco Bell, they actually recovered shotgun shells, a black wallet, a glove, and several coins.
He dropped his wallet at the robbery? Dude.
rappers. And further out, on the bank of the Red River, they found a black hooded jacket and a pair of white surgical gloves. Now, outside the investigation, the four families were trying to make sense of what had happened. And while they made arrangements to bury their loved ones, the detectives began speaking to the rest of the staff. One of the first people they heard from was Jelaine Walker, another employee who left the restaurant shortly after midnight on the night of the murders. She recounted that on her way out of the Taco Bell that night, she'd seen Courtney still inside the building, even though he'd already clocked out hours ago. Now, this caught the investigators' interest, so they looked further into him and learned he was a soldier at Fort Camp and had only been working at the Taco Bell for 11 days.
Wow, I didn't realize he worked at the Taco Bell even. I kind of missed that bit.
I also spoke with Dean Marie Keller, the assistant manager who actually hired him, and Cherie Underwood, the team unit manager. And Marie told detectives that when she hired Courtney, he asked about the restaurant's layout, what happened after.
No, dude, immediately that's a pass if you're asking about the security.
Hours, and how the
roof accessibility. Like, what the fuck? He also requested a special key. That's insane.
The closing routine worked. He also asked about a key to the opposite exit door, whether there were cameras inside.
Bro, those questions in 1994 is just like, well, you should have absolutely been skeptical.
And what the roof and drop ceiling looked like. She also told the police that on the day before the murders, he asked whether the back door would trigger an alarm if it was open from the inside. And those interviews pretty much filled in the timeline of what Courtney had been doing in the days leading up to the murders. And then one witness, James Bowen, came forward and told investigators he overheard Courtney actually planning the entire robbery on January 21st, 1994 at the Oak Grove trailer party. Now, while the detectives were gathering evidence, Courtney was breaking down because over the next few days, Shantae and Carl noticed a change in him. He started keeping to himself and barely spoke, only staying in his room. And so on February 1st, Carl came home from work and found Courtney in a very bad way. He'd attempted to end his time on Earth and could barely speak. And
oh, wow. He was just too guilty? I don't deserve to live, I ain't shit. Bro, those are your closing words? Come on, man. You gotta be a little bit more elegant. Tried to bandage his wounds. Defendant said that he hurt 4 people. He killed 4 people.
As Carl tried to help him, Courtney told him that he 2 days after the murders, Courtney actually told Shantae that whoever carried out the killings had gone into the Taco Bell before it closed, made their way to the men's restroom, and climbed into the ceiling to wait. He said that 2 people were found in the kitchen.
Bro, exactly what I said. Go to the restroom, climb into the ceiling.
Made their way to the men's restroom and climbed into the ceiling to wait. He said that 2 people were found in the kitchen and 2 in the storage area, and he described exactly how the safe had been opened and how the money had been taken. He told her details that weren't public yet. However, Shantae did not go to the police. She only told investigators what she knew when they came to her. But on February 2nd, 1994, police brought Courtney in for questioning.
Almost 3 G's. Okay, that's better than the other ones. That's still not enough. I mean, especially to kill anybody, let alone 4 other people.
And searched his car. And in the back seat, investigators found a bowling bag, and hidden beneath a panel in the bottom was $2,576 in cash. And around the same time, the forensic results came back from the fingerprints lifted from the ceiling vent cover in the men's restroom, and they of course matched Courtney's. They were exactly where someone would have placed their hands to push aside a panel and pull themselves up into a ceiling. And the ballistics tied into the shootings as well. A cartridge case.
Yeah, bro, I mean, that's pretty easy to prove at that point. I mean, he's saying exactly what he did, and he's like, I didn't do it, but if they did, this is what they did. I mean, he's admitting to it without snitching.
David had been part of the conversation about robbing the Taco Bell at the party, leading them to suspect that he helped Courtney carry it out. On December 12, 1997, the court sentenced him to 4 consecutive life sentences, plus 20 years for the robbery. But as horrifying as that was, the next case would take the same kind of horror even further, becoming one of the deadliest and most chilling cases.
It was like, you know, the switch was flipped and I was choking her.
Oh my
Henry
God.
Louis Wallace was born on November 4th, 1965 in Barnwell, South Carolina. He was raised by his mother, Lottie Mae Wallace, along with his older sister, Yvonne, in a small home with no plumbing or electricity. Now, Lottie worked long hours and ran a pretty strict household, and when she felt that children needed punishment, she beat them with extension cords, garden hoses, and whatever else was nearby. And when she was too tired to do it herself, she made Henry and Yvonne whip each other. Now, despite this upbringing,
bro, some parents just really suck.
Henry was pretty popular and well liked at Barnwell High School. He was elected to the student council, and when his mother refused to let him play football, he joined the cheerleading squad instead. Now, after graduating from Barnwell High in May of 1983, Henry spent 1 semester at South Carolina State College, then another at Denmark Technical College, although he would eventually leave both schools without ever graduating. Now, around the same time, he worked evenings as a disc jockey at a small local radio station in Barnwell.
Oh, that's fun, a little DJ. Okay, can we?
And was shipped out.
It seems like a totally normal guy. I wonder how he like ends up snapping.
Well then, Henry rose to the rank of Petty Officer 3rd Class, which was a mid-level rank that came with responsibility over the sailors below. Now one supervisor described him as an outstanding seaman who willingly followed orders, completed his assigned tasks on time, and demonstrated a level of knowledge that exceeded what was expected at his rank. Now by 1987, Henry married his high school girlfriend, Moretta Brabham. Now Moretta actually already had a daughter, Tiondra, and Henry decided to adopt her. And for a time, Moretta and Tiondra followed him as he was transferred to the West Coast and back again. But the marriage was already under strain because Henry wanted a child with Moretta, while she didn't want to have any more children. Now in January of 1988, while stationed in Washington...
I mean, that's fair though. I mean, she's the one who has to kind of go through it.
He was actually arrested for breaking into a hardware store, and this is when things began to fall apart. It was also during this period that he began using drugs, including a white substance that you can put up your nose. Now in June, he pleaded guilty to second-degree burglary and received 30...
Bro, he has said that word in this video already. Why are we being weird about it now?
A white substance that you can put up your nose. Now in June, he pleaded guilty to second-degree burglary and received 38 days in jail and 24 months of supervised probation. He was assigned to probation officer...
Bro, like a month in jail for second-degree like burglary? That's ridiculous. I feel like that's way too short.
Patrick Sieber. But according to Patrick, he failed to show up for most of his mandatory meetings, and by 1990 a warrant had been issued for his arrest. Now the same year he returned to Barnwell to visit his family, and by this time Henry was 24, and it was there that he ran into Tashanda Bethia again, a girl he'd known since childhood who was now 18. Now their families had known each other for years, as their mothers worked at the same factory and were close friends, and at some point Henry and Tashanda had even briefly dated, but she pulled away from him and he'd grown angry about it. Now one day in March of 1990, he offered her a ride in his car, and she naturally got in. Now pretty soon an argument broke out in the
dude, it's always over a woman, bro. I feel like that just always gets in the way.
car, and he decided to drive her toward a pond in western Barnwell County.
I mean, he seemed like he was doing well, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, no, this ain't working.
Which is where he suddenly attacked her, took her life, and then left her in the water. Now when Tashana didn't come home for a while, her family reported her missing, and Barnwell police started asking questions. Now Henry was one of the people they spoke to since he'd known her for years, and was already their prime suspect.
Bro, yeah, they already showed him saying that he was like choking her. I mean...
and would end up serving 4 months in state prison in Allendale. Now within months of his release from prison, he was also discharged from the Navy, and his marriage to Moretta ended in divorce shortly after. He stayed briefly with his sister Yvonne in Rock Hill, but by late 1991, he decided to move to East Charlotte to start over again. Now over the next several months, he cycled through fast food jobs near East End Mall, Taco Bell, Bojangles, Captain D's, and the Black Eyed Pea, losing some of them.
Yeah, how do you even get a job though as like an actual criminal? Like, it's hard enough to do it not as a criminal. I couldn't even imagine like the felony Indeed site, you know. It'd be so hard to get a job.
As the substance abuse began creeping in. Now despite this, he eventually worked his way up to shift manager at a Taco Bell in Charlotte. Now this job put him around young women every day. He supervised them and got to know them. And it was around this time that he also started dating Sadie McKnight, a young woman that also lived in East Charlotte. Now Henry is 26 now, when at the same time he's meeting other women in the area. In May of 1992, for example, Henry picked up Sharon Nance, a 32-year-old woman living in Charlotte. She had left her Aunt Linda's house that night in a black dress, talking about going out with friends. Now she also had a son at home, and during the drive with Henry, she mentioned that Henry would have to pay her for any intimate activities they engaged in. Now Henry didn't like this, and so the two got into an argument, and in the middle of the chaos, he then proceeded to beat her to...
She's trying to say she's like a prostitute, and then he beats her because of it. That's insane. But it wasn't until a week later when TV reports...
death with a rock. He then
uses a rock to kill Sharon Nance after she demands to be paid for stuff. Wow.
Drove to Russell's Ferry Road, dumped her...
I mean, that would be a little bit upsetting, you know? You're not in on it at all, and then they're like, okay, where's my money? That was the only reason that happened. And then I would just feel bad, you know? I'm not gonna kill you. I wouldn't be in that situation at all. Just saying. Like, if I'm, what's this guy's? I forget what his name is.
Her body near the railroad tracks and then drove off. And when Sharon didn't come home nor called, Linda knew that something was wrong, and it wasn't until a week later, watching the news, that the family learned what had happened, as the police recovered Sharon's body on May 27th near Russell's Ferry Road. Now the officers opened a home.
I mean, he did it before and got away with it, and then y'all let him out again and it happened again.
that investigation again, secured the scene, and began retracing her last known movements, trying to find out who'd seen her. Now the detective spoke to people who knew her and worked the case as a single, separate killing. Now during the investigation, Henry resumed his daily routine working as a manager at the Taco Bell restaurant, and during this period, he now started living with his girlfriend Sadie and became close with Caroline Love, Sadie's roommate and co-worker at Bojangles. Now on June 15, 1992, Caroline finished her shift, got some quarters so she could do laundry, and then left for the apartment. Now after her cousin Robert Ross drove her home, Caroline went inside, and Henry was already there. He'd entered the apartment with a copy of his key while both women were out, and when Caroline came in, he called out from the bathroom and said he would leave in a moment. But when he decided to come out, he went into the living room where Caroline was, kissed her on the cheek, and made a move on her. Now she told him that she wouldn't tell Sadie if he promised not to do it again, but instead—
Oh geez, dude, he's just all messed up. Wow. And then he just chokes her out right there. That's probably what he was talking about. Bro, he's done this too many times. Like, this is just insane. It's so depressing how the police just don't really, like, capitalize on all this. And then he probably does it again and does it again. Like, come on, man. This is just depressing. And I've yapped on this one long enough, so I'm going to cut that one on there. That was good, though. It was a little bit depressing. I enjoyed it because it was about Taco Bell. It's always fun. And then I'm going to save this. Dude, these are long. So I'm going to do the 2 spooks ones and then see where we're at. So Scary Cop V95, 96, V96.
September 27th of 2024, a woman named Jalen immediately grabs her phone to record something on camera. It isn't often the case that this happens, but tonight it occurred once more. Jalen had been lying in bed while doing work on her laptop when something noticeable appeared from the corner of her eye. Now, given that this incident took place at her grandparents' house, a place abundant with numerous vintage items, she finds it unsurprising that this happened. Some of these items, as she believes, could be cursed or—
Dude, that is like hoarder stuff. Like, you gotta be putting that stuff in a box. I mean, is she still here? Is she with us?
But even if they weren't, she would still be afraid of coming back to this place, and it's all because of this incident. The following is her footage. Watch.
Gosh, what is it? What is it? Oh, I think we've seen this. And the balloon moves. It ain't even the guy in the chair, right? We've seen this, I think. It's been a minute, so let me just watch it anyway. Bro, that is terrifying. Why would you ever have that in your house? Like, it's so lifelike.
This thing just moved.
She getting
Boy, all the talking heads would have been screaming about the Dallas Cowboys and sticking forth in this organization. So again, kudos to the Cowboys going on the road, getting a good win, see how they win that moving forward.
There's a saying in golf, there's no pictures on the scorecard. If you're down, you don't care if it's by 5 or it's going to be like, you just happy that you moved for 2 or 2. The injury to Parsons, and we don't know anything at this point, he just left by a part of the left shoe off. How do you assess what that man is doing? Feels a lot better if he's on the feet.
That would be, if he's missing any significant time, I think he's the best player on the side of football. Really, because they have to be playing from the hand. But they have a lead and they've been on that pass rush. But if you don't have—
Bro, it's just a fun little TikTok. I feel like there was somebody in the room. She didn't fully pan the room, didn't get to verify no one was in there, so this is stupid.
The door just moved.
quiet early on, much more involved, particularly
the safety over the top, and you'll see right down here.
Ending ever, a free personal Suzuki dessert, an entree close.
I feel like the way she's holding the camera just doesn't add up. Like, I feel like she's too focused on it and then not enough. Like, what is this right now? And then the whole time she's like fully focused on the filming aspect.
Free dessert, just $13. That's a sweet deal. Sure, that's what I meant. We weren't able to pick a fuel goal. There's a lot of involved.
Oh, it doesn't move at all.
Are you real? You can do it again.
I remember it moving though.
I won't watch.
Well, don't do that. What's the point? Nah, it's got to be related to the shadow that like kind of came into is blocking the light right there. And like the top left right here. So somebody moved in and then is now manipulating the arm. So nah, that's just fake. Nah, and she would have like freaked out, I think. Like it would have been way more immediate. There's no way, dude.
Following video, a man is inspecting a property where something very alarming was caught on camera the previous night.
See, guess what? Meron na naman kaming mga hindi.
As it turns out, a homeless person had broken into the property, and it's Benji's job, the person recording this, to get him out of there. However, unbeknownst to Benji, it wouldn't just be a squatter he encounters, but also something else. In his own words, this house terrifies him. It's the one place that he doesn't like to check for squatters. He often encounters them on the properties that he owns.
Bro, is this the one with the bike where he comes out the closet with the bike? Have we seen this video?
Which is why he's made this into a video series. But it's the following video from his whole series that has left viewers creeped out. This is what he caught.
Maybe same guy, different video?
Ayun.
Oh my god, it is the bike.
There is somebody in here.
Dude, I think we've seen this video. Why did it show up for me again? I remember this. I don't know.
I know you're in there, man. Hello?
Yeah, dude, hold up. Let me see what he wants.
Police!
Ooh, that is a scary noise. Good, good idea there.
You're in
dude.
there, man.
Ah, because that door definitely moved. So if he's not in here, I don't remember where he comes out from. Oh yeah, he dipped. Oh, that was it. That's what I remember.
This is in your house, man.
It had to have just been him then. Like maybe he hid in that room and got away from you. it keeps going.
Hello?
At this point, I'm thinking that TikTok did well, and he's just trying to recreate the fire here. So zoomed in. Yeah, no, I would think that place is haunted. This would freak me out for sure. Let me see what he saw again. I mean, that is kind of undeniably weird. I mean, unless this is just like editing, like video editing, which it could be. But no, that one's actually pretty good. And the bike dude popping out was scary the first time. That scared the hell out of me the first time. I'm gonna take a pee break because I don't know. Feeling kind of odd. I was doing that the other day, right before I ended stream. I was like feeling all gross from some gross video we watched, and then I was just like, I was not feeling good that night at all. Like I was just like throwing up and stuff, and then I don't know if it was because of the video or what. Like I literally didn't eat anything for like the last period of time before then either. So I don't know. I'm kind of feeling that way now. So I'm trying to see. Give me like a minute. Okay. Hopefully I can finish this video at least. But should be fine.
Of something that's left her shaken up ever since it's happened. Although having watched this video multiple times, she still can't make sense of this footage. In the video, Felicia is seen playing with her dog on her back porch before suddenly it happens.
And another animal comes up, right? It's like a lion or some shit, right? And not a lion, but a big cat, right? Oh, I'm tripping. And the dog's ready. The dog's ready to play. Dude, I feel like I've seen this video before.
Of a legendary.
Yeah, and then he's in the. Yeah, no, we've seen this video. I don't know if it just popped up for me and said I didn't watch it.
Advisor.
Dude, I'm gonna have to scrap the whole thing. That's so lame.
What exactly was caught on camera? Had her on.
And they just disappeared when they got by the tree.
Shown on screen, where apparently something very strange happened. His phone crossing the.
Dude, I don't know. I remember this, and I don't want to do it all over again and then post it like I haven't watched it.
What was your first impression of her after?
I think I remember her acting not making sense. Yeah. Yeah, I remember being like, that's when you get up and go look at it. And at least like get a visual of this, because you don't even know, you can't see what's up there. Yeah, okay, no, I've seen this video. That's a mistake. I don't know how it popped up again. That's really lame. Now I have to like vet the other ones. Anyway, that's okay. I'm gonna make it kind of a short stream because I'm kind of dying over here. So I don't know what's going on. I just get like overheated and then I just start sweating and stuff. And then I like throw up. I don't know why. But I'm hydrated and all that. But anyway, I'll figure it out. So, but yeah, thank you to anybody who is gonna watch the VOD, I assume. Because I just streamed randomly. No, but I didn't say when I was gonna do it or anything. But yeah. Sorry about that. I did want it to be longer, but oh boy, I don't want the same thing to happen as last time. Anyway, I'll be maybe I'm not gonna be live Tuesday, Wednesday. I will be tomorrow. I just don't know when yet. Most likely in the PM. But a little bit earlier than I did today. So anyway, thank y'all. Sorry again. But thank you.